Welcome to how to write about pretty much anything in less than an hour. This is my most challenging webinar ever run because I put myself under ridiculous amounts of stress to make sure I write a blog post on something I've never written a blog post on before. You'd think I'd learn. We might as well make this a webinar about what crazy shirt am I wearing today. And the person who said that horizontal vertical stripes make you more slim, they were lying when it came to me. My name's Dante St James. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get underway. Now, for those of you who are joining me live here today on Zoom, and there's quite a few of you starting to pop into the list of participants here. Thank you for joining me live. Please make use of, someone said they can't hear me. That's probably because it was the beginning of should be able to hear me now. Zana, if you could just confirm that you can hear me now. Should be coming through. Yep. Thank you very much. That was a hand up. I think that's a yes. So yes, if that's coming through loud and clear, I'll just move my microphone a little bit closer and we'll get underway. Now, this is a formula that we're going to go through, which is going to help you to understand how to write a blog in the simplest possible way and to get you sort of in and out of the process as soon as possible. Because let's face it, anyone who's tried to write content, write blogs, all that kind of stuff, it is a nightmare of a thing to have to be doing all the time if you don't have an approach that's going to work for you. Now, I've got a few interesting bits to come, but first I'll start off with this quote from Sylvia Plath. Everything in life is writable about if you have the outgoing guts to do it and the imagination to improvise. The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt. Now, how do we remove that self-doubt from you? Is by giving you a formula that makes it so much easier to be able to do these things. This is the formula I use. I went through a challenge just recently where I wrote 30 blog posts in 30 days, turned them into a whole bunch of other repurposed content as well. And that made a massive impact on my Google search results. So this is something you can look forward to if you put a little bit of time and effort and a bit of commitment. I can't come any closer to the microphone without hitting it. So I don't know what's going on there, whether there's a problem with that coming through. I can try and turn it up a little bit, but as far as I can tell, it is up pretty loud at the moment. This one, turn it up. I'm not sure that I can actually turn that up anymore, but I will try to get that up a little higher. If anyone else is having trouble hearing, please do let me know. But from everything I'm seeing here, it seems to be coming through fairly loud and clear. The input level is working. So thank you again for joining us. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program, being extended for this month in its current format. Regional Development Australia Brisbane as well has contributed to this, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. You can watch this again later on YouTube through the Business Station and my own Dante St James channel as well. Then the other option for you would be that if you are on YouTube right now watching this and you have a question to ask, pop it in the comments below. And please, I would love it if you would give us a subscribe to the channel. Either of those channels are great. You can get some updated content nearly every weekday through the next month, and make me feel good too. It strokes my ego. We all like our ego stroked for an hour and every now and then. My background is studying in marketing and business information systems through the University of New South Wales in Sydney. Also studied with the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK, although I didn't live there, I did it remotely. But I got 6 different levels of certification with them, which was a lot. And I then supplement all that now and these days with micro credentials that I do through TAFE New South Wales. Now, I'm not based in New South Wales. I'm actually in the Northern Territory. You can see that little flag behind me, but I do work with Facebook Australia as a trainer, as a digital marketing associate, and a media planning professional, soon to get my certification with Facebook through a number of other things too. They've asked me to sort of step up my role with them. Google's Digital Springboard project, and of course the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, which you are accessing this through right now, and the NEIS program I also work with in the Northern Territory. Enough about me already. It's enough. Who this is for this morning is for those who are busy, because this blogging method is quite quick to integrate into your life. It's for the overthinker, the person who just sits there and goes, I don't know what to write about, where do I start? And who the beginner is, the person who just goes, I just have heard that I need to write these blogs. I don't know what these things are. I don't know what the format is of them. I've just been told that I need to start writing content, which is all very well, Mr. Social Media Guru over there, who's just telling everybody that they need to write more content. But what does that actually mean? Well, this is one of the steps that gets you there. Now, there's certain people who will be offended by this particular one, and I say this because I've actually had an attendee once before on this one a few months ago who actually put in a complaint saying that my whole approach was an affront to writers everywhere, which I thought was interesting. So, if you're a journalist, you probably won't enjoy this. If you're a copywriter, you probably won't enjoy this. If you're a classical writer of books and novels and all that sort of thing, this breaks you away from that whole idea that writing is some sort of art form where you have to go through a tortured creative block and you have to feel terrible about the art of what you're doing. That's why we're going to cover what blogging is and why you should bother with it. We're going to cover what the myths are and why there's this great lie that this is this great high art form that you have to be a tortured writer in order to do. We're going to look at the syndication of things to other places as well, that your blog doesn't have to sit just simply where you are. So it doesn't sit, just 100% where your skill set is. It can go well beyond that. So what is a blog? A blog allows you to show your expertise. So if you are a chiropractor, you can write about that. If you're a digital marketer, you can write about that. If you work with Reiki and energy healing, you can write about that. It allows you to shine through, to maybe give yourself this platform that you own, that you can explain different concepts to people. You can go through that process of the engage, educate, and oh my God, I've just lost it. Engage, educate, and excite process, which is to do with producing content that allows you to get attention, educate people through what you've written, and then also provide some sort of excitement for them to go forward to do something more with you. Don't think of excite as I'm so excited, oh my God, I can't hide it. It's more like excitement is that I have been prompted into action to do something after I've read this material. The biggest thing about writing a blog or writing some articles on your website is that it does help you to attract searches in Google. Now, particularly if you're providing regular blog content that is very educational, very useful to the audience you're trying to write for, then you're going to be in a position to do, I guess, like I've been doing. I went from having a website a few years ago that just produced, this is all about my products and services, now to a point where my website is now much more access for its expertise that's gone on there rather than my products and services. But the fact that it does that has also lifted up the profile in my target market to find my website, to get hold of my products and services. Now, I'm priced out of the realm of most small businesses, and that's a very deliberate thing. I don't want to have to grow my business to a giant sweatshop of people building websites. I want to keep it fairly niche and fairly boutique so I can also work on my other businesses that I work on. The third thing we're going to look at is all about repurposing and syndicating. It's very important that you don't just write a blog and hide it within your website. There's so many opportunities to get that content going a little bit further, whether it's turning it into graphics, turning it into video, and publishing it elsewhere on other websites, which is now actually a good thing. This will help you to, I guess, to achieve something where you go, I've just spent an hour writing this. It'd be really nice if I can get more value out of it than just simply sticking it on the back of my website. And you'd be right. So the process of blogging, you base it on research. So choosing a topic can be as simple as going, well, I know all this stuff, let me just start writing about it. But in most cases, we're not all that decisive. We can go, well, I do many things. Which one do I start with? Do I write something basic? Do I write something technical? Oh, wait, is that what people are looking for? And we don't have 50,000 people reading it in the first week, and we get discouraged. You've got to base it on a little bit of science, a little bit of data. And the best places to get these are things like the Google search suggestions. So if I was to unshare this screen and open up another one, let me open up a tab and show you what I'm talking about with Google search suggestions. Come on over here, buddy. Wrong screen. This one. Thank you. We're looking at, sorry, I just haven't shared this screen yet. I've just set up my screen to display a certain way, and now it's not displaying that way. I need to share a different way. So if I then look over to this particular desktop, when I'm looking at the Google search suggestions, I'm looking for things like maybe hairdresser, and I go hairdresser might be what I am, but it also gives me a whole bunch of these different ideas that are the most common and most highly likely search results for people who match, I guess, my kind of search processes, my search patterns. I say, well, hairdresser or a hairdresser near me. It sometimes thinks I'm in Adelaide. I'm definitely not in Adelaide. I'm in Darwin. We're under lockdown right now. I kind of wish I was in Adelaide today because I wouldn't be in lockdown. A hairdresser in Adelaide, and go hairdresser open Sunday, hairdresser Darwin, hairdresser Salisbury, hairdresser book online, hairdresser scissors. These are the most common things you go. So if I was saying I'm a hairdresser, some of the things I could write about, which have quite a high impact on search results, would be hairdressers that are open Sunday and why. Hairdressers that book online. So a page of content with your website will be good. Hairdresser scissors. You might be able to answer a question. Why do hairdressers use the scissors that they do? Why can't they just use regular scissors? And you can write an actual process about that. Let's just say you are in mindfulness, because I was just speaking with a client a minute ago. No, I'm not looking for that. Mindfulness. I could go, well, I've previously searched for Mindfulness Works, which is his business. But the other thing that people are searching for under mindfulness is music, meditation, coloring in for kids, music for kids, apps and activities. So I go, okay, so if I work in the realm of mindfulness and my website is about that, then I can then go, well, there's a bunch of things I could do. Mindfulness for kids is a blog title. The definition of mindfulness, that's a blog title. Mindfulness music for kids, perfect blog title to put into you. So you've already got all these amazing ideas you can go with before you've even hit the road and said, this is, what I'm going to define myself as a writer with. The other area too is in the Google Ads platform. So I'm just going to go into the Google Ads platform, but excuse me, because it's kind of boring and it's not a very, it's not something that everyone's got access to unless they've advertised on Google before. It's a thing we call the keyword planner in Google. Now, if I'm just going to go into, let's just say in this one, I haven't used this one for a while because I've got a specific agency account that I use, which is not what you're seeing right here. It's an old account. And I go in there and I start to get the idea of, okay, here's a whole bunch of things that I've done in the past on Google Ads. But what I'm actually looking for is up in the top where it says tools and settings. I'm looking for the keyword planner. So once I open that up, come on, buddy, you can do it. I'm looking for keyword planner. It's under planning. And I'm looking for this specific thing, the keyword planner. It's just reacting a little bit slow this morning. I've just got a lot of windows open. I probably need to close some of these down to get some performance back on my computer. So just 1 second while that loads. Especially when you leave Facebook windows open, that thing uses a lot of power. Come on, buddy, you can load, you can do it. I've got lots of internet. Perfect. So in here, it's saying that I can discover new keywords. Now, discovering new keywords is a way for me to say, okay, what it's allowing me to do is to explore an idea that I already have or a website that I'm already on. And then from there, I can go, well, what I'm going to do is look for more ideas that have some search volume around them from people looking for those things. So if I go and discover new keywords, it's then going to open up a chance for me to start with a keyword, or I can start with a website. So let's just say, I'm just going to start with this particular website because I was just working with it. So I'm going to copy in that particular website and say, I want to know ideas to write about. So starting with a website based upon this website. I want to use the entire website to give me those ideas. What this is going to do is bring me back a whole stack of results that are what the search results that people are typing in and the amount of monthly searches they will have. So as you can see, Mindfulness Works Australia has between 100 and 1,000 searches a month. So that's sort of a very average kind of medium kind of level. But if I want to look at pretty much from the most high kind of thing, so mindfulness, this is between 10,000 and 100,000 searches for it. So there's an opportunity in there for me to go, that's something to write about. Meditation for sleep, there's another one. Meditation and mindfulness, 1,000 to 10,000 searches within Australia every month. That is a minefield of new material to write about. Write something that's literally called meditation guide. What mindfulness is literally telling you what to write as the topic of your blog in there. So once you've got all these ideas, I'm going to pop out of here. So that's the Google Keyword Planner. If you really need to know what that is and jot that down in your notes, we'll give you an idea of a place you can search for, but you do need a Google Ads account in order to be able to use that. And it's certainly the most the most accurate way of judging what people are actually looking for. So let's go back again to our presentation. I'm going to be jumping around a lot of screens here today, so please do bear with me as I get this correct. There we go, we're back again. So the magic formula for blogging is all about asking a question. So we have that one in there, what mindfulness is. So you could write that as, what is mindfulness? And ask a common question. It gets asked about what things you do. If you're a plumber, what does a plumber do? How do I become a plumber? That kind of thing. So that could be the question. Let's go back to mindfulness. It could be, what is mindfulness? Then you answer that question directly in the first paragraph or even in the first sentence if possible. So you go, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the act of focusing in on one thing at a time and being able to be very present in the moment of that one thing. So that provides that, but then you provide then by explaining that answer. So that's great that you provide that answer. Now you need to back it up. And quite often what we'll do is dot points. So dot point one, it is often thought of as meditation. Dot point two, some people regard this as very similar to Zen. Dot three, it can be about physical activities such as coloring in books, listening to music, and the act of doing things like yoga. Then what we do is we expand out on those points. So you've got the question at the top, it's a title, then you answer it very directly in that first paragraph. After that first paragraph, 3 or more dot points that back up why you said what you just said in that answer. And then you can expand on each of those dot points in new paragraphs to go along. Now, people who are saying you must write, 3,600 words per blog in order for Google to notice it, are obviously not answering the kind of questions that people are really asking. When you ask that direct question and answer, it's like asking Siri or asking Google or asking, what a Bixby or whatever your personal assistant, your electronic assistant is for an answer to a question. What you want to be able to do is to be the answer to that question. And the only way you're going to do that is to show that you've got some authority and some regular material going in that answers the questions that people are asking about your particular topic. So that then you get that credibility that Google says, this site over here is answering 30 of the questions that people are asking very, very often. And the answer that people are getting are good answers. They're acting on those answers in the way that I would like them to do to tell me that they're an authoritative provider of those answers. Now, why would you do that? Because experts are looked at to work with. You prefer to work with people who answer the questions you've got. When you've got problems such as, I've got a leaky tap, how do I fix it? The plumber who's most likely to give me the easiest to understand answer is the plumber I'm more likely to use. So when it gets a bit beyond my ability to be able to fix, I'm going to want to use that guy because he made it easy. He made it very accessible for me to be able to do that sort of stuff. Regular web pages are pretty much the same format. You don't have to write an essay of epic proportions in order to be able to answer the questions that people have about your products and services. So you can do the same thing. You can fill up your pages with a top 10 questions that clients and customers ask you. That's just as important as going and trawling through Google's keyword planner, for instance. What are the questions that people ask you all the time, constantly asking you these questions? And you go, well, that's something I can write about. If I could answer those questions on my website, maybe the clients wouldn't need to ask those questions so often. And then there's the other top 10s, which are such as, what are the top 10 things that you wish people would ask you? The sort of things which you go, these are important things that people don't realize. I wish they would ask me about them. That's another 10 pages of content. So far, we have 20 pages of content that you could use to fill up your website with. If you're going from 5 pages of content to now 25 pages of content, and over the next 12 months to 125 pages of content, you get noticed by Google in a very special way. When I got over the 100-page mark at Google, I noticed my search results going up and up and up. It was like every time I do another week where I put enough new material in, I jump up again with another lot. And I notice that when I don't do it, it sort of plateaus a bit. It doesn't drop, it just plateaus a bit. And then I start on another burst of 30 days of new content. And of course, I go up to a whole new level again. It goes up in leaps. So as far as you having to sit down and write content every day, you do not have to do that. That's completely fine if you don't do that. But you have to do something sometimes. Perfect for me is once a week. Okay is once a month. any further out than that to write new material for your website is just showing Google that you're not really looking to use them as a source of new traffic for your website. But there's a few little things before we get underway, and I'm going to show you an example of how we do this, is that you need to aim your language at what's in it for them. So you're writing from a perspective that isn't about talking about yourself. It's about creating an answer to a problem that someone's expressed that they have. What's in it for them rather than here's what's so great about me. Consider your tone too. You're going to be writing to a specific audience. If your audience and your customer tends to be a woman who's over 45 years old, probably quite a professional in her career, kids are starting to be probably grown up. She's not so much, she's not really in the position where she's having more kids. Then you would write a certain way for that woman. If you're writing for someone who's older, you might write a certain way for them. Someone who's got English as a second language, you'd write a completely different way for them. You wouldn't be relying 100% on Google Translate to be making your website readable for them, because it's Google Translate, whilst it's technically a brilliant product and it can make something in English readable for someone in another language, just like English, there's very subtle ways that you communicate things. So you think about Chinese, for instance, the same word can be said 5 different ways and have 5 completely different meanings at all. But to us, it's just the same word, but it has completely 5 different loaded meanings around it. So Google Translate doesn't do a great job of that at all. Be inspired by those who also do what you do. So you don't have to come up with all the best ideas yourself. Look at the people who are the best in the business at what you do. Are they the people who are number one on the search results in Google? Are they the people who are the ones who are by far and above getting all the attention in your sector? Then you go, well, okay, if they're really good at what they do, maybe that's something I need to do, is do more like what they do. And that's okay. You can ask the same questions as what they do. And over time, you become considered for the answers for that question as well. There's nothing wrong with completely copying the title of someone else's blog of someone who's a competitor, for instance. It's not you being not yourself. It's not you being a copycat. It's you going, well, there's enough people there who are looking for that answer. Why can't they get the answer from me? You're not copying their article. You're just copying the title. And that's fine. That's completely and utterly fine. That's competition. And it's quite often when you get to Google that the person who originally wrote the article isn't necessarily the person who gets the highest search result, because it just may be that their website is technically slow. It's a bad website. It hasn't been updated in 6 months, but they just happen to answer this one article, this one question really well. But if you're answering it really well, your website is really fast, you've got a growing amount of traffic, you're becoming more known to Google from the good work you're doing elsewhere in your site, then you can easily take over that original person. Even if you just simply copied and pasted their exact article word for word, you could actually come in over the top. My number one article on my website that is read over 1,200 times a month is an article about how to target people in Facebook groups with ads in Facebook. It's a real workaround, and it's a bit of a head spin when you have to think about it. I wasn't the first person to invent that idea. I saw someone else had mentioned it as a throwaway line in a blog article about something else completely different. And I picked that up and went, that is brilliant. I'm going to write a blog post on that. And I did. And now I'm the number one answer for that particular question on Google. And I've got a few other questions that I'm very highly ranked for as well, including how to respond to influencer collaboration requests. Is a very high thing. I get a couple of hundred of those hits every single week based on that question. So we've got our ideas now of what we're going to write. We've got the idea of how we go about that. I just want one volunteer to tell me what they do, and if you could put it in the chat window, please, of what you actually do in your business. And we're going to try and write a blog post live. This is where I put a lot of pressure on myself about that particular thing. So if you're willing to come on to have a chat, we've got Eleanor. Okay, so End of Life Doula Navigator. So I think that's going to be absolutely fascinating. So let's have a chat to you. I'm just going to have quickly put you into a chat state, Eleanor. So I'm going to allow you to talk. If I can get you to remove your, thank you very much, Eleanor. Can you tell me a little bit about what an end-of-life doula does?
Oh, hi. What we actually do is create peace of mind, really.
Right.
What we do from the range of the life cycle is the life planning. So we will start with their documentation and healthcare plans, etc. We also look at having communication so that the family is all aware of everyone's, wishes. And this can be from 18 years or older, and it can be healthy. The client can be healthy. Where we kick in our best service, though, is when someone has a diagnosis that's life ending or is aging and fragile.
All right. So let's look at what the top few questions are that people would ask you on a regular basis about what you do and how you do it.
Sure. The top question really is, what is a doula? So there's a lot of education in that space of allowing people to know that they're like, it's an emerging field in Australia. It's very solidly reputable and known in the UK, Canada, America, Brazil, Peru, etc.
Yep.
Australia is merging. So the primary part of the education, that I need to focus on is what we do and how we can help either the terminal patient or the fragile or aging patient or their carers and supporters. So we really just help people's, my mission really is to ensure that the voice is heard when they can't speak for themselves.
So if I look at the main question that you get asked is, what is an end-of-life doula? And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so people can actually read it. Unfortunately, I'm very, very small on here. So let's go to kind of 18. So if you cannot read that on screen right now, just please let me know and I'll make it a little bit bigger for you if we need to. So what is an end-of-life doula? So the first thing is we'll answer that question. So the answer to that question, what would the answer to the question be?
Can you do I was just going to say, do a web search.
Yeah.
That question there is the individual that I've been trained under will give a very definitive explanation, but end-of-life doula provides non-medical advice and services. Okay, so what is an end-of-life doula? And it'll say...
Oh, that's a pregnancy doula. That's a bit different. Okay, what is an end-of-life doula?
Yeah, end-of-life doulas are...
There we go. It's the Australian Doula College is probably like the #1 result there.
End-of-life doula is a non-medical role that provides.
So it's not a new concept. Okay, so what I would do if I was to critique what they've written is that none of that is necessarily relevant to the answer that someone's looking for. It'd be this here. That's what's answering the question. So they're just sort of padding out that to make someone feel a bit safer about, okay, it's actually been around a long time. It's not a new thing. But to the person who's reading it probably is new. So let's go. An end-of-life doula is a non-medical role. So an end-of-life doula is a non-medical role. And I've got this stupid Zoom bar keeps popping up at the top of the screen. Okay, so that it provides support options and education, assisting the dying and those around them. Okay, so in not their language, in your language, what would we call this?
What would we describe? Mine is providing, non-medical role and non-medical advice and information.
Non-medical advice and information role that provides
support in life planning.
Yep.
For those, actually, I don't even. It's not rolling off my tongue very clearly because I'm caught up.
That's all right. Well, for those who are, it can be those who are, and this is where we're going to break into our dot points. So we can say those who are, and let's say, the first person you mentioned, who was someone who would receive the help from end-of-life doula, would be who?
18 years old and over.
So those who are 18 years and over.
Years old. Yep. So 18 years old and over, healthy, and wishing to have peace of mind for their assets planning, financial and health care.
Oh my God, that's my typing. There we go. Okay, the second person.
Is anyone that has been diagnosed with a life-ending illness, frailing or aging. So, you know, they could be life ending and they're only 20, or they could be just very healthy but aging in their 90s and getting ready for their end of life journey or planning.
So already we've answered the question. So we could always stretch that out so much more in what that is, like the doula, the doula, what is it? The doula college has done. But what we're doing is making it really short and sharp for content on your website. Now, what we would do now is take each of these points and expand them. So the first thing would be we look at, okay, for the healthy individual would be now a heading that we would have. So if I make that a heading, I'll just make it bold for now. So we go for the healthy individual, and then we then expand on that. So it could be for those who want to plan for later in life, they may make investments, buy real estate, top up their super, but some may also want to preemptively plan for when they're older.
Showgrounds for our update. I'm joined today.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Just mute yourself out. That'll be fine.
I'm going to, I thought I'd shut that down. I don't even know how that popped back up.
There we go. So some may also want about preemptive plan for when they're older, when they get frail, or when terminal illness may appear in their life.
Yeah, when they're 18 and over, they can just simply do it to prepare for the unexpected. So that's in, I mean, and it's fine. I know that you know, what you've got is an example, but 18 is old and over, they may just need to have their super sorted and have a will and look at what would happen and have conversations with their family if something was to, you know, happen whilst they were outside the house, or the unexpected, the unnatural deaths and the traumas.
Say an unnatural death or trauma.
Yeah.
So what are the things then we could go that are possible things that you would then look at?
Their life planning documentation, which includes their will or trust, their enduring power of attorney, advanced care. I don't want to go too fast, but that's just, I would list the documents there that they would need.
So what was the second one? Life planning documentation, wills, etc.
Advance healthcare directive.
Oh, that's the old power of attorney. Yep.
No, that's the, if they were to be in an accident and couldn't speak for themselves, in a coma, you know, what their wishes would be if they were left on ventilation or brain dead, or so it covers all their health care.
Right. And then what would be another area, do you think?
For them, the enduring power of attorney. So who would take over, or who would they want to speak on their behalf if they couldn't speak for themselves?
Right. So if I highlight the words that we've just used in there, so the reaction of my browser is a little bit slow today. Yep. Already in word count. So if I go tools and I go, where is it? Word count. I've now already done 164 words.
Yeah.
So the minimum I'd be looking for in a whole article we'd be writing is about 300 words, just because that's a certain level that says that this is more than just super simple answers. This is super simple answers with additional detail.
Yeah.
Now we've only answered one of our top points, and we've already done half of that 300 words. So if we then go, those who've been diagnosed recently, we then expand on that. Then we also expand on those who are frailing and aging. So you can see how simple it is to then go, oh, okay, that's all it is. It's more so getting this particular format together where you have a very, very simple answer to a very simple question that someone's asking, your 3 dot points, or even we can do more if you like, expand on those. And before you know it, you've got an entire blog that you've got ready to go, or an entire content page on your website that you're ready to go with. Is that something that you think that you could actually do, Eleanor?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
something.
makes it much easier than having to write a big creative drama, isn't it?
Yes, it does, and it's certainly something. I've just started my business, so that's my website's still being developed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is definitely something, and it's a great structure and formula.
Yeah, it makes it so much
Yep.
simpler to do.
Yep.
So what I want to do, thanks very much for Eleanor. I really appreciate you taking
Thank
part in that bit. So I
no,
might
thank you.
use another volunteer. We had Zana was saying before, a buyer's agent in Perth. So if you don't mind, Zana is going to bring you forward as well and ask you what that you may what you would describe a buyer's agent doing.
Search. So the buyer's agent
Yep.
is doing search, negotiation for the properties in both homes and investment properties. So search and negotiations of the properties at the best possible price on behalf of buyers, be they homeowners or investors.
Right. Okay, so we answer the question by saying, first of all, a buyer's agent. Ugh, I'm used to my computer reacting a little bit better than it was reacting today. It's just deciding it wants to be super slow. I'm just going to shut down a whole bunch of my other tabs so I can get a bit of memory back in my computer, because it's actually really annoying me. All right, a buyer's agent is an individual who, and what do you say they do?
Who does search to assist those buying, yes, those buying, not selling, buying property in Perth, in my case in Perth,
Yep.
in Perth, be they homeowners or investors.
Two, and then we can list what it is you actually do. So we get our dot points.
Search best value for money properties.
Yep.
Negotiating the best possible price on behalf of the buyer. Price on behalf of the buyer. Assistance with after sales service. Sales service.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we've got what our things are. You can say how a buyer's agent helps find your perfect property. So using a little bit of language that makes them feel like they're very special. So make that there. Let's make it a bit easier. I'll just reduce the font of some of these so it looks a bit more readable. There we go. All right, so we can go, how does a buyer's agent help find your property? So what is it that you actually do to find that property for them?
So I search the properties that are not on for properties not only on the market, but I also use my network with selling agent to find out, use my network with to talk to the selling agents, who will then let me know about the properties that are not on the market or have not yet hit the market.
So in the language of someone who, because I've already kind of said that, I'm going to say language to know the properties that are
Not on the market.
behind the scenes
Yeah,
and not yet listed for sale
that's right.
around Perth. So I can then add, this means that you get the first look at a prospective property for sale well before it hits realestate.com.au. And I can say, and in a crowded sellers market such as ours, it pays to get every advantage that you can. That way you're then setting apart the fact that you're the person who is going to make it a lot easier for them to buy a home, because it's really, really hard to buy homes at the moment.
Yes.
So again, if we look at this very quickly, look at the amount of words we've got. I might as well include that and do my word count. We have already reached not 813, 149. So we're almost just about halfway through our 300 words. So already you can see how, just by answering that question really simply, we've answered that first one. We haven't even looked at negotiating. We haven't even looked at the assistance. So once we add almost the same kind of level of detail then to each one, you've then provided a really informative page or a really informative article about that particular thing. So it makes it so much easier then to go, oh, okay, this is really easy. Now, there's a reason why we use this particular layout, and it's not just because it's easy for people to read, because it is. People are skimmers. We skim read. The rise of Facebook, the rise of social media means that we don't necessarily look at the whole article. We look at the headline, and then we might look at the very little bit of detail that's in there, but quite often we'll go be a keyword warrior and comment on the particular thing we're reading before we've read any of the article. The same goes for all the pages on our websites. So when we go in there, we know that they're going to read what is a buyer's agent. They're going to skim through that first paragraph. If it goes to a second, third, or fourth paragraph, they've ignored that. They've just gone straight for that first one. What they're looking for is the easy to answer, the easy questions to their answers. What they want is these dot points. These dot points are the place they go to find out what the answer is to their question. Now, if they go there and say searching for best value for money properties, they go, what does that actually mean? They can then look for, okay, so what is that? What is it? And then they look, oh, okay, that's what it's about. That makes sense now. What they're not doing is reading through lots of, in a crowded, busy buyer's market, it's more important than ever before that you have all the advantages you can find. A buyer's agent, they've skipped all that particular first bit. It's like those clickbait articles you see, which are all about what the stars of the 1990s sitcoms look like now. And they spend half of this article just going, we all grow up a certain way, loving certain comics and certain shows. And when those shows end, it makes us feel really sad. 20 years later, we're feeling lots of nostalgia for these things. They just go on and on and on and on about this stuff. And you say, just show me whether Chandler from Friends is fat yet. Okay, that's all I want to know. So this kind of thing then doesn't do that whole bait and switch where it's just making you go through lots and lots of unwanted detail to get to the real point that they want to find out. You're going, I want to just give them the information they're looking for. What is a buyer's agent? It's a person who assists those buying a property in Perth, whether they're homeowners or investors, to do these three things. And then if they want to know more about what that assistance is with the after sales service, then they can read more about it further down those dot points. Does that seem a little easier for you now, Zana?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes a very big difference. So I think that's where you go, okay, this is what we're going to write about. We're going to write about it, about these questions. So I guess then it's a matter of then extracting the kind of questions that are suitable for you. So this is where we go, okay, that's great. We've done a buyer's agent. We've done an end of life doula as far as those things are concerned. Then what is it what are the questions that you would say are the top 10 that you would have? Now, I'd love to hear from some of the other people online. If you could tell me what it is you do, and we'll actually go and look at some examples of where we can find that information, say in things like Google's keyword search tool. We can look at the automatic answers that come from there, and we'll do a little bit of research of where we find those questions. If I don't get any volunteers, what we can do is give a few examples that I have from the clients that I use and the clients that I work with. So I'll share my screen again, and let's look at a couple of examples. For instance, for let's just say a Airbnb in Alice Springs. So this person might be running an Airbnb in Alice Springs in the Central Australia. I can look at then, okay, those are the answers I'm getting, but I can also see these other things. So somebody who's looking for an Airbnb may also be looking for a B&B in Alice Springs. They may be looking for just accommodation in Alice Springs, hotels, caravan parks, and holiday rentals as well. So there's an opportunity there for someone who's looking specifically for an Airbnb or a B&B, then they may also be looking for other things. So I'm going to share sorry, I didn't even share that. So my apologies. I was very slow to share that. There we go. Now we can see it. So the options you see coming up there, B&B in Alice Springs. So that's given me, then I can write something about a B&B in Alice Springs. I can write something about accommodation in Alice Springs. And these would form the core of the searchable pages that I want to create in my website. But if I then go to Google Google's keyword tool, then I'm going to look for a bit more than that. So if I look for Airbnb in Alice Springs, according to the Google Ads accounts, come on, in we go. You can do it. I think Google's feeling a bit sluggish like I was earlier this morning as well. There we go. So tools and settings, once it comes up, still loading. Here we go. Into my keyword planner. And then I'm going to type in just a simple search of, when it comes up, discover new keywords, Airbnb, Alice Springs. So I'm looking across all of Australia. I can actually narrow this down. So if I was going to go, I'm only really looking for people who are in a certain part of Australia. Let's just say they are in Cairns. So if they're in Cairns, there's 196,000 people who are in that particular region. Then we'll go, okay, that particular region is all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the 19,100,000 who happen to be on Google today in Australia. But ultimately, you're probably looking for results coming from Australia. You might also be looking for people who are coming across New Zealand, because we have a travel bubble sort of with them at the moment, not completely. So the nearly 4 million people in New Zealand are now included in that search as well. So we look for, in Australia and New Zealand, what are the things that people are searching for when they are search for things that are like an Airbnb in Alice Springs. Now I've got hiccups. That's great. So there's not a lot of variety in it. There's not a lot of people searching for that. So me want to go, well, if they're looking for an Airbnb in Alice Springs, they might be looking for accommodation Alice Springs. So once I add this extra one and get results, it's then going to go boom and fill it out a lot more. So we know that accommodation in Alice Springs, if I make this a little bit bigger so you can actually read it, we've got, 100 to 1,000 searches every month in Australia and New Zealand looking for that particular Airbnb one. Accommodation in Alice Springs, between 1,000 and 10,000. So we know that that's a very high search term. Now, if I was to look more amongst all these different categories in here, I'd go, okay, competition tells me how competitive it is for people who want to advertise against that term. So if we're looking for accommodation in Alice Springs right now, it's going to cost us between 87 cents and $3.22 to buy an ad for the top of that. So it's saying, okay, it's relatively competitive. It's saying medium there. But if we look for something like Alice Springs Caravan Park, it's actually lower. So there's less people, about the same amount of people roughly in that range who are searching for it, but there's less people advertising against it. So what you could do is go, well, if people are looking for caravan parks in Alice Springs, we could write on our Airbnb page more, and this is not on Airbnb itself, on our own website for our Airbnb, we write more about, how this is an alternative to someone looking for a caravan park, especially if you've got parking out the front that you could put a caravan into. You can do the same with hotels, a bit more medium, a bit more expensive to be able to get into that one, but it still has a lot of search volume, between 1,000 and 10,000 searches every month for that particular thing. Interesting that that's one of the worst hotels in Alice Springs. That's the one I stayed in very recently. That is also quite a high search term, between 100 and 1,000 people specifically looking for that hotel in Alice Springs. We can go completely out of hotels in Alice Springs and change the whole thing to a whole completely different search term. We can go, for instance, we're looking for, and if anyone else wants to tell us what this may be that they do. So if you've just got an example, I'll do the search terms for what your particular industry or your particular niche may be. No one's going to volunteer. I will jump in and I will do, let's just say, a business process improvement. Oh, nice. So this one's going to have lots of stuff because there's so much online about business process improvement. So business process improvement. So this is a very, very specific thing, and there's lots and lots of searches for it. So in Australia and New Zealand, if I look for that actual thing, it's between 100 and 1,000 specific things being searched for, but it actually has, it's low competition, but it's regarded as quite an expensive search key term to do. But if you want to write things about business search process improvement, then there's all these ideas over here. You can say an article about what is a business improvement consultant. Do you do things through Kaizen or Lean Six Sigma process? Do you work in things like lean management? What are the methodologies of business process improvement? Here's an example of a business process improvement project. What is a practical approach to process improvement? So you know that these are all between 10 and 100 searches across the two countries every month. But if we want to look for higher ones, we then go, okay, let's look for the things that are at the very top. So process improvement, lean improvement process. You write something about these topics for these higher search terms, then you know that you're helping to provide more answers within those that come to your particular website. So what it allows you to do then is go, okay, I understand that really people who are looking for business process improvement know what they're looking for. In fact, they're looking for these two things primarily, but we think of the long tail. What can we add on to process improvement? We can say business process improvement in the agricultural sector. How to improve business processes in the textiles industry, that sort of thing, where you're providing specific answers to specific niches and industries that are around what you actually do. And then we do exactly the same thing. We go back and we say, what is the question that people are asking? What is the most simple possible answer in one paragraph? It doesn't have to be that short as well. It can be much longer. What is the simple answer we can provide in a paragraph? And then what do we do with the 3 or 4 or 5 main points that we can then expand upon further down in the article? So that's a way that you do it. So usually what I do, I take this through and I get someone to volunteer a completely out there thing that they do, and I then start to write a blog post all within about 45 minutes. But instead I've kind of made this a bit different so we can actually look at what is the process you go through to get this into a better position. So you understand then how the keyword ideas there. We understand, and when we're looking for business process improvement, there we go. Methodology, examples, framework, courses, manager, all these things. What are the steps of business process improvement? That's Article 1. What are the best tools to use for business process improvement? Article 2. What is a business process improvement analyst? Article 3. Methodology, 4. Framework, 5. So already we're seeing tons and tons of different ideas of what to write for the most in-demand questions that people are asking around business process improvement, or end-of-life doula, or buyer's agent in Perth, or Adelaide-based energy healer. Any of those things can be brought forward to be really, really common questions that go in there. So I guess that is really what the process is all about. The process isn't some very mysterious art of writing. It's all really just about the ability to know what the questions are that people are asking, know what the things are that people are trying to, I guess, find answers to, and then writing the simplest possible response to what you can do with that. But then once we've written that, Why waste it on just being on your website? Why wouldn't you just post it in other places as well? There's other sites, social media, and there's blogging platforms that then you use to link back to you. You can also turn it into a podcast. What I do with every single one of my my blogs is I then record them as a voice podcast that goes out. And I've got over 1,600 people now who subscribe to my podcast and get every episode that comes through. So it's an additional place, but also Google can search through podcasts. It can transcribe podcasts. And in fact, you look up for my business Clickstarter and I'll bring up the results in YouTube, but I'll also bring up the results of the Clickstarter podcast. So you can listen to that online as well. Once you start to add those extra things, then it becomes this, you know, a self-propelling cycle that gives you more and more search value, that more and more people can find you, and you become a higher authority than those in your circle who don't do those extra things. Then you can also break up those points. So 3 dot points we came up with can be broken up into graphics in Canva on social media. If you're feeling a little bit more energetic, you can do it in something like InVideo or Lumen 5 or Wave Video to produce little short stock videos around that particular point that you're saying. It carries it then way, way further than just simply on your website. We often get asked though, doesn't all this duplicate content though get punished by Google? And it doesn't actually get punished by Google as long as it's not on your own site. As long as you have syndicated it off to other places, like for instance, Medium, Tumblr, LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn is a great place to put your articles. You just take the article that's on your website, copy and paste it into an article on LinkedIn. You've got to post it on LinkedIn. So suddenly you have an article on your website, you got a article on LinkedIn. If you're using Medium, which I thoroughly recommend you do because I do, and it gives me extra reach again, I'll get 500 plus readers of my articles every month on that particular platform, which is 500 extra eyes that eventually come back to my website. So yeah, that plus Tumblr is like a micro blogging platform where you can just enter in your blogs on yet another place and then make sure you link that particular article back to the original article on your website. Blogger works the same way. Facebook to a degree allows you to put those sort of things in. Long format stuff on Facebook is fine. You don't have to have everything to be completely killer. Sometimes there will be someone who is looking for that particular answer and it comes up in their feed and they go, that's exactly the question I was going to answer. Newspapers and news sites. Google My Business. Now, Google My Business is a great place to put the quick question and answer format in your Google My Business profile as a post. You can then have a little graphic or a little photo that matches that. You put it in Google My Business, that's extra stuff that Google now knows about your business. If they know more about you, they're able to send you more traffic. And then you can go to places like Quora. You can make your own Google site. You can go to Reddit and put things on there as well. You don't have to just be stuck on your own website. Now, of course, this all raises the question of then, well, how do I get help with this? So you can show me a blog that you've written and get a bit of feedback. I'm more than happy to do that for you. It's just come through the end of financial year, so I'm a bit more free now to be able to talk to people. Just email me through dante@treaty.com.au. You can get in touch with me through LinkedIn and Facebook as well. They're actually pretty good places to get to because I tend to answer those a lot quicker than I answer emails. Like most of you, I get very overwhelmed with lots of email. So if you can reach out to me on social channels, I'll be more than happy to take a look at what you've been doing. Or if you've got an example of one you're doing now and you would like to get a bit of feedback on it, more than happy to have a look at that with you as well. In the meantime, though, wherever you are, if you're in lockdown, please stay safe. I hope that it's going to be over soon for you. I'm hoping tomorrow that Darwin comes out of lockdown. I've got a bit of work travel to New South Wales in the next 2 weeks. So I'm really hoping that I get out of lockdown so I can go and do that in 2 weeks' time. Have a great day, a great week, and I hope to see you in the next one that we do here on the ASBAS Digital Solutions.